Hello everyone and welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. Today I'm going to make a card with the design layout that I saw a little while ago on Pinterest. It was from Janet Lakeland. I don't remember the name of her crafting group, but she'd made a card similar to this and she had the little cat on with the cat punch. And I thought today it would be just perfect for the Daisy Delight stamp, which is here. So this is the one I'm going to make with you. It does fit in an ordinary envelope. You don't need anything special, and when it stands up it looks so pretty. Let's see. Now, to start with, we're going to use a smaller piece of cardstock than we normally use, and I've cut a piece of Tranquil Tide at 8.5 by 4 1/4, and I've scored it at 4 1/4 and folded it in half. This gives us a smaller base than usual, but when we're putting DSP on, it makes it sort of a bit more economical really. I've used the frosted florals paper, and when I saw them in the catalogue I thought, oh, they're pretty, yeah, I'll get those, they're pretty. But my word, when they came, they are just stunning. Each of them, it's a thinner paper, but each of them has a pearlized shine to them on both sides. And I didn't want to use the really flowery ones, but I chose the ones with the leaves on, and they feel gorgeous. And when they're on your card, there's just a very subtle shimmer. So this is the one that I'd used on the first card. And today I'm using this one, but I'm using the back of it. And because our designer papers come in 12 by 12, and my card is only going to use a 4 by 4, rather than, you know, like a 4 1/4 or cutting it to 5 1/4, it just means it's a little bit more economical and you get more cards for your piece of DSP. And that's always a bonus. So I've got my base, and here's my DSP, which is cut at 4 by 4. And I'm just going to attach that to my base. Oh, when my fast fuse works. There we go. And you can use any adhesive. It's just that, as most of you know, I bought a lot of fast fuse in the sale, and that's what I like to use best. So just make sure we've got a nice little border all the way around. There we go. And I'm going to attach the inside now. It's a little bit more difficult when you've got the top on, just to keep it open. So I've cut the same, a 4 by 4 piece of white card, and on it I've stamped the daisy from the Daisy Delight set. And, oh, where did I put it? Oh, it's run away. Not sure. No. But anyway, this is the single Daisy Delight when it's punched, on stamped or punched. But as you can see, I stamped it double. Okay. And then I used the smoky slate grey, and what I did was I just got a dauber with a little bit of petal pink ink on, and I just went through the middle. So I'm going to attach that to the inside. And I'm going to have it at the top corner there on this one. There we go. Right. So now you're going to need your scalloped and stitched circles. And I chose these two, which are not the biggest ones in the set, but I liked the size for the daisy. But you could choose whichever ones you wanted. Whatever you think works. If you're not putting a daisy in the middle and you're putting something else, you could always use one of the square framelets or a smaller framelet. Even the oval framelet would look nice on there. So I've cut my, well, die cut my Tranquil Tide with the biggest scallop, and I've used Whisper White for the stitched circle. And I'm just going to attach those two together. once you've got your pieces cut, this is a really easy card to come together. There we are. And I'm only going to put glue on the bottom half of this. But to see how big I actually need it, I know that my cards are usually sort of 5.5 inches long. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it onto my grid paper at 5.5. I'm going to put fast fuse on the bottom half, and then I know just how much space I've got, and I'm not going over the 5.5 and making it, you know, too big to go onto into the envelope. Let me do it this side, it might be easier for you. So I know I've got 5.5 here, I know my glue's there, 5.5 line is this one here, so as long as I'm under that line, I know it's going to fit in my envelope. And that was a tip that Janet actually gave on her card when she was making it. It's a really good tip. Okay, so there we are, that's the front of it made. The next thing you need are some of the daisies cut out. So I've stamped them with the smoky slate and I've cut them out with the punch. On this one, I used the petal pink and the sponge daubers and just went over a little bit. On this one, I used the blends, and it really doesn't matter what you use. You can use your markers, you could paint it with ink using a blender brush, you can use your daubers to do it. Really doesn't matter, whatever you feel comfortable with. So then I'm just going to flex the little petals a tiny bit. Okay, and then I'm going to use my Tombow and just put a little bit of glue on what will be the bottom circle, and I'm just going to add it into the middle here. Give it a second or two to dry. And then I'm going to do the same with the next layer. And just twist it a little bit so that it looks a bit fuller. You can, if you want to, use a third layer. I don't have a third layer cut out in this colour, but I do have a spare one from Tranquil Tide. It just gives it even more dimension, makes it look more like one of those Michaelmas daisies. But for this one, I'm only using 2. And I'm going to use my faceted gems in the silver. For this one, I used the gold, but this one, I'm going to use silver, just to shake it up a little bit. Let's find my paper piercer. I just pop it right in the middle. Put my glue down. And then you'll see on this one, it's very delicate to see, a bit tricky maybe on camera, but I've cut some of the leaf shapes out on vellum, and the brown ones underneath are from the Jar of Love. But for the card that I'm making now, I've cut some more with the little tri punch that we have, and I've just cut 3 vellum leaves for it. I'm going to attach them with my glue dots, and these are how the glue dots normally come, and they're really easy to roll from the big roll inside, but I've got a few left from my paper pumpkin that I'm going to use. They're exactly the same thing, but for people who don't get paper pumpkin, if you're not in the North American region, you will have just the glue dots on the roll. And for these, I'm just going to put one underneath the daisy petals. Didn't want to come off. One at that side, one at this side. And they are very, very subtle, but they look so pretty. And then I'm going to keep this one for the banner that we have. And then I'm going to decide whether I want it on the banner or on here. So for our banner, I'm going to use the thank you stamp, that's on here, and I'm going to ink it up with Tranquil Tide. On this one I use the black memento, and I do like that, and I just use the sponge dauber with the So Saffron on and just made a colour on it. But this one I'm just going to do it slightly differently. I have been using my Stamparatus to do a lot of my stamping, just so that I get a nice block colour. I wasn't sure when it first came out whether I'd use it much or not, but I do like it just for going over the same stamp a couple of times. There we are. Put the ink away because we don't need it anymore. And then I've cut a little bit of the Tranquil Tide ribbon that I have in my stock. If you don't have the ribbon, you could always just cut a little bit more of the Tranquil Tide card and use it to go across like this. You could have it so that it folds underneath as well if you want to, but I want mine just to be loose on the top. I'm just going to get this little bit smaller piece that I have cut and just angle the edges. Really is up to you whether you want to use, you know, a ribbon or card or nothing at all. It really doesn't matter if you don't want to use anything. Depends how you feel on the day, I always think. Okay, so my little piece of ribbon is going to go there, and I'm going to cut my thank you. I think I might pennant the end at this end this time. Let's see how that looks. I've never penanted the end at that side. So I'm just going to cut in the middle, and then from the corner to where my cut ends, and the same at the other side. Let's see. Oh, I quite like it that way. And then I'm just going to cut straight up here. You could do this on your paper trimmer, just for that little piece. Take a little bit more off, I think. See, because I want to see the ribbon at both sides. Okay, so I'm going to stick the ribbon down, and I'm going to use my tear and tape for that. I find I get a better adhesion if I use tear and tape on ribbon. And I know then that the ribbon's not going to buckle or anything from the wet glue. Okay, and then I'm going to need some of my dimensionals. And I'm only going to put 2 on the back. You don't need a lot of them. Take the little piece of paper off. There we go. And I'm just going to put that other little vellum leaf that we had left over. I'm just going to see. I think I'm just going to pop it there, like that. I'll put a little glue dot at the bottom. Slide it under there. I don't want it to stick out too far on the card. So, there we go. And then I've got a couple more of the little silver faceted gems that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use the smaller size this time. I'll put one up here. And I'm going to make it so that I've got 3. So I'll take the smaller one again, and I'm going to put it round here. What about down there? No, I think I like it round here. Okay, so there you are, a really quick and simple card. If you wanted to put more decoration at the top, you could cut out some of the leaves in one of the matching greens. This is mint macaron, and you could place some of behind, or you could use more of the petals from the daisy and colour those green and just pop them behind. But it really is a very sweet and simple little card, and I think people who receive that will be really chuffed. So thank you again for watching me, and if you'd like to go over to my Facebook page, which is Crafts by the Bow, you will see lots more updates on there, and you will see a posting every day for the next few weeks. If you want to go to my blogspot, which is the craftsbythebow.blogspot.ca, you can also find that there's the shop there. You can look at past pictures and past projects that I've made. Hope to see you at one of those soon. Bye everyone.